I became involved in health research about 12 years ago as a result of a cancer diagnosis. Since then I've had a second cancer, and since then I've also had an emergency heart operation and several other medical problems. So it's a combination of factors, but the key really was that initial cancer diagnosis and being offered a trial as part of my treatment. After I did the first cancer trial as a participant, I became interested in how they'd actually designed it and what the research was about. It was a straightforward drug trial, but I found after I'd done it and after I'd had my treatment that I hadn't really understood the science behind it, or indeed how trials were run. It was just simply something that my doctor had offered me. And then later on I found out that this offer was being made to hundreds of people over several years up and down our country, and indeed in Europe, USA, Canada as well. That just got me interested.
The reason that I'm involved in the cancer research world is that both of my parents were cancer patients. My mum was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1994 and had surgery, and she's doing very well, thank you, still alive, and be shopping in Barnsley even as we speak. My father was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1999, and as a family we nursed him through his illness, and he passed away after about 3 years. And just after he died, a neighbour, a friend of mine, invited me to a conference at Sheffield University which involved patients and carers talking about their involvement in cancer research. And this concept intrigued me. It was the first time I'd heard about the aspects of clinical research, but that patients and carers could have an input into that work. And I joined the group that were holding the conference, and 9 years on, here I am. I had a science training. I've got a degree in biochemistry, and I understood about what I thought was cancer research, which was laboratory work, the sort of at the molecular level, searching for drugs and chemicals which could cure cancer. But I wasn't really aware of the kind of clinical research that I've learnt about since then, the kind of work that's carried out by the Medical Research Council, where patients are randomised to different treatments.
In 2000, I became quite seriously ill. I was taken into hospital, into intensive care, and it turned out that I was a classic late presenter with HIV. So I have a research background, albeit in chemistry and a long time ago, but it's kind of in my nature to really want to get to understand the fundamentals of something. So when I was better and back in real life, as it were, I did some voluntary work for NYAA, the local HIV group, and I wanted to become an informed patient. I wanted to really understand my condition in detail and the treatment options. Now, it turned out that NYAA were wanting to send one of their management team to the UKCAB, which is the Community Advisory Board for HIV. This is an organisation that focuses on HIV treatment and treatment-related issues, and they therefore thought it would be a good fit for me to go along to that. And what they do is they try and ensure that the 400 or so voluntary organisations in the UK are kept up to date with treatment issues and with the latest in research and so on. So as part of all that, I really had to get more of an understanding about clinical research. And the UKCAB were able to sponsor me to go on to a course which was statistics for clinical research. And that was a great background in not only design of clinical trials, but also in understanding the statistics. You know, when is something significant or not? And that's really the background.
I would recommend it to anyone who has an interest in medical research and an interest in how that is delivered to patients and wanting to present a patient perspective, because I think that's very important. But also you do need I think, certain skills and talents to be able to do it. First and foremost, I think there is the realisation that it's not a pastime. You have to be serious about it. It's not really a job of work, but it's more like an almost obsessive hobby. You have to get into it and you have to do it justice. I think too, you have to be very open to putting your thoughts forward. Sometimes that can be really hard when you're in a room full of people who clearly know what they're talking about and often use very strange language to do it. And sometimes you do actually simply have to put your hand up and say, I didn't understand any of that, but here's my opinion on what I think I understand. And often that's the key. Because if you think about this as a piece of research that's going to be put in front of patients, if after you've had some experience of doing this kind of work you still don't understand what people are talking about, then it's highly probable that the patients being asked to join the trial won't necessarily fully understand it either.
I think if you're interested in how clinical trials are run, then it's a very worthwhile process to go through, and it can have a real impact on the community.